appears that spacebar is not quite working in my windowed mode. Now, I'm going to have to do a few weird things in windowed mode. Like, for instance, I can't actually pan. So when I actually move to the edge of the screen, what happens is my mouse just goes off the screen. So I'm going to have to use the middle mouse button for my scrolling. And that sure does feel funky. So, you know, actually, I'll talk about this as I'm going. So I said that, okay, now that we know that there's this mid-game, which is queens plus roaches, and after that, queens plus hydras. Whoops, I did not make an overlord on 9. And the best part about the build order tester is that you restart it, and only 40 seconds was wasted. Not the best split, but, you know, whatever, I'm playing windowed. So, we talked about the mid-game, queens and roaches, or queens and hydras and roaches after that. We know that that's a good mid-game, so what does that mean we're going to do for the early game? Well, Zelniq was actually describing a lot of excellent ways to open up, and one of the big ones that he mentioned was to get a 14 hatch and to get 2 queens pretty much before anything, even before gas, which seems a little counterintuitive, but again, think about it. You just don't really need that much gas, especially not early on. And again, you know, I made my overlord not on 9 again, and that's what happens when I try to talk and do stuff at the same time. But, you know, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I'm not trying to go for the super most efficient build quite yet. Because remember, the efficiency of your build comes after you get the big steps down. So right now, what I am going to be doing is just trying to play around with how it feels to do this opening in Zerg vs. Zerg, where I am going to be getting a whole bunch of queens early on. And I know that my basic opening is going to be getting a 14 hatchery. Now, notice I'm not playing fast, I'm not trying to spam, I'm not trying to, okay, alright, cool, let's try to figure out my new build. You know, I'm just clicking buttons a little bit slowly, trying to make sure that I'm aware of all the possibilities that are here. And if I screw something up, no big deal. I want to be aware of what went wrong, but I don't absolutely need to eliminate any imperfection, especially on a first run. So one thing I know right now is that Baneling busts are going to be a pretty big threat. Baneling busts are going to be a little bit of a threat. So you know what? I'm going to test one timing. Before I do anything, I'm going to test a timing. Now this is something that Zelniq stated to me. And let's say that you had been in a forum and you saw that someone wrote this down. Oh yeah, this loses to a Baneling bus, it's really unstable. Or even, oh no, it does hold a Baneling bus, it's stable. Remember, it is so not important to be right. It is so not important to try to message that person or argue with that person. No, I did something. Just go test it. And whatever you figure out, say, oh cool, that was a fun exercise that I put myself through. So I'm aware that Baneling bus can be a big, big, big threat. So let's see how I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to try to get 2 queens out really fast. Now, something that Zelniq said is really important. So here's my hatch. I just now am making a queen. And here's my second hatch about to finish. I'm doing a little transfer here. Something Zelniq mentioned is that you really do need to make some spine crawlers pretty early with this build. So I'm going to set my rally points. I'm also going to rally some guys here. So here is my first spine crawler going down. Here's 4 Zerglings coming out. Looks like I'm going to be sacrificing a little bit of time here, just to make sure I get these out super, super fast. So let's go ahead and do some more checking. So again, I'm thinking about a Baneling bust. So I'm actually going to build a creep tumor here first. God, I hate that queen. I hate that. We require more minerals. And it's even worse if you have a Korean client, because she says it in Korean. She's like, minerals, washi no hamnida. And it's like always really, really long. So hey, you know, here's the best part about the build order tester. I now have 2 queens at my ramp. It's 3 minutes and 30 seconds about. Cool. And you know, I'm also noticing things like, yeah, I kind of forgot to get a gas. My overlord timing was a little screwed up, but 3 minutes and 30 seconds, that's a loose enough benchmark to me. That seems useful enough. And hey, great thing about this build order tester, now what this means is that I can Baneling rush the imaginary me and see how that works out. So not only am I going to test this Baneling bust order because I'm curious about its effect on the build, but also so that way you guys can see the current norm in Zerg vs. Zerg across all the Asia servers for all time. and by for all time I mean like, you know, in the last week of the beta. This is what the Korean players were doing, or should I say the Asia server players were doing, like with absurd consistency. So everything seems normal. Doesn't look like my opponent is in my proxy. I remembered to build my Overlord on 9 because I'm playing Starcraft 2 and not Starcraft 1. That's fantastic news. You know, I really genuinely wish that people unanimously agreed that the Overlord on 9 was the best way to go, because then you can just say arbitrary statements like, dude, in any Blizzard game, you make an Overlord on 9, as though people are dumb. Don't actually do that. That's actually just something you can do among friends. Because if someone posts on the forums and says that, and it's just like, Day 9 gave me approval to, I'll be so ashamed of myself. Oh, the pain I'll feel. So I'm getting this extractor quite early. I'm getting it at 13. Building one more drone. I'm going to send this droney back. And here comes, bam, building the spawning pool. So I'm sending these guys into my gas geyser. I did a little bit of a half-assed job sending guys into gas. I just sort of boxed and sent 3. Ideally, you'd want to do something like send this guy that just returned, this guy that just returned into gas. But of course, just looking for some rough approximations. Don't care too much about the specifics. But the basic way that this build works out is that by getting this gas so early, in fact, if you get your gas at X and your pool afterwards at X, your pool will finish right around the time you have 100 gas. So if you 13 gas, 13 pool, you'll have 100 gas. If you 14 gas, 14 pool, you'll have 100 gas, these sorts of things. So notice that, oh, I about have 100 gas. Oh, I'm getting Zergling speed. Oh, I'm getting a queen. And now I begin spamming that Z button to begin making some more Zerglings. You have to maybe hold up on larva a little bit, because, you know, you do want to get your Baneling nest really fast. Oh, here it comes. Bam, there's the Baneling nest going. Oh no, one of my larvae was stockpiled. No big deal. I'm getting one Zergling out. And remember how, I'm going to even send my stuff up here. Remember that 3 minutes and 30 seconds was the time that mass queen opening got 2 queens to the ramp for good defense. So here we go. I am now... Wow, this is looking like it's going to be pretty damn close. Let's actually rally our Zerglings out here. So in an ideal world, it's looking like it's going to be pretty damn close. Remember, 3 minutes and 30 seconds was the time to beat. Wow, this is actually going to be miraculously close. So I'm going to morph a whole bunch of Banelings. Again, for any of you looking for the cheesiest way to play, this is it. And then you just begin spamming your V button to make sure you can get those larvae out immediately. Wow, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And look, wow. Wow, those queens really did get there just in time. So, you know, it's kind of funny. What I'm seeing right here, what we are seeing, is that with a Zergling Baneling bust, the Banelings get to your front door literally at the exact moment that those queens would have been able to block the front door. So, you know, when I was watching Zelniq play against Dimaga, and I saw Zelniq just rush to have both queens at the front, I was sure that maybe there was a good reason for it. And you heard me say, yeah, you know, he has to deal with Baneling busts and all that. But it never quite occurred to me until just now, oh my god, Zelniq really does have like a 3 or 4 second window where he needs to get the queen there immediately, and if he doesn't, his front gets broken. And now I see why those spine crawlers also need to go down immediately, because if he doesn't, insta good game. So very, very cool to see that sort of stuff happen in action. So let's go ahead and start playing around with... I'm going to do one more timing from the other side. So the last timing I'm curious about with these queens before I really do anything. Well, actually, I'm looking at the time. We've been going for 41 minutes. Let's actually just try to do a little bit smoother timing with our mass queen build for ourselves. We can see clearly that there's 2 or 3 more questions that we don't quite have time to answer from this testing point of view if I was trying to figure out stuff about mass queen. So, you know, download your own build order tester and fiddle around with it and just sort of see how it feels. There's no pressure. I mean, all I'm doing is shift F3 in every time I screw something up. So, easy for breezy. And I'm going to rally this fine gentleman overlord down here. So, what was the thing I was going to say? Okay, yeah. So, again, I am going to be going early expand, double queen. I'm going to be trying to get my gas up early. I'm going to be trying to getting roaches reasonably early on so I can pull those queens away from my ramp. And one question that I would want to ask myself after, one question that I think is going to be left a little bit unfinished is, what is the timing that my Zerg opponent can get Mutalisks really, really fast with? I mean, like, at what time do Mutalisks get to my base? Because if, for instance, Mutalisks get to my base at, you know, I don't know, 5 minutes and 50 seconds, I need to make sure I either have a lot of queens by then, or that I have my evolution chamber. I intentionally sent this drone a little early because it's, you know, a little unusual to have your